So in this video, you will learn how we are doing the animation part of things in Unreal. Things might get a little bit more complicated here, but I think it's still very manageable. Things are still going pretty straightforward, so I think you should be fine. And I know I don't do those intros often enough, I probably should do them more, but they're relatively time consuming and I already spent a lot of time on the tutorial itself. But I'm doing this intro today because I want to ask a favor from you. I would like you to join my Discord. Not only can I help you out if something doesn't work, but also I would like you to share your progress with me. Because I really would enjoy to see how people create this character on their own or what kind of result they got. And if we get enough people to share their progress, I might even be able to put them together in like a little collage in a video or something. So yeah, good luck on the video. Alright, so in this video we're going to do the animations. As a side note, we're going to do the simple way and later on we might modify it to have more options ready for us. To do the simple way, we right click here and there is going to be under animations the blend space 1D, and this is what we want. I'm going to explain what it is in a second. First of all, we need to select our skeleton, which is the dark creature skeleton. So there we go. And we call this dark creature walk to run. So this is what we call it. And we open this up and we get a new window here. So look at scary. What is this window again? Yeah, so many windows. It's actually not that hard. I want you to take a look at the right side here. We have our animations here, right? And we're just going to start with the walk. Let's just grab the walk and we're putting it to the left side here. Now, if we hold shift, we can see this green dot here, which we can move around, okay? This is basically where we add. More to that in a second. But next we're going to grab the catwalk and move it here to like the second part. And we can see, if we hold shift and move this, we can see how he's blending from one to the other. Actually not that bad, looking actually pretty good. And then we have the cat running, which we can put in here. And we can see by holding shift, how he's like blending. Now, obviously not every blend part is perfect, but okay, this is just fine. In general, it's blending pretty well, I would say. So what this here is, this is basically just like a line. And on this line, we put certain animations and we just control this here with the speed. So if we are walking, you can see if we walk 0, I just realized we don't have an idle, damn it. Okay, so usually you would start with an idle over here. Since we don't have an idle, it's not that bad. We're just going to drag each one a step further here. And we still have the poses. Let's just use the poses as a filler here. So we're basically starting with that. That is the pose. And then we're going to start walking. And then we're going to start catwalking. And then we're going to start running. Don't worry about any missing animations because we're going to create our animations later in Unreal as well. Here we go. We have basically set a line, a timeline where we can blend between different things, right? It's actually not blending too bad. Kind of okay with it. Animations completely freak out. This might be because your walk and the catwalk and or the running start wrongly. So they all should have one cycle. If we open up the walk here for a second, one cycle, right? So left leg in front and in the end it's going back to the left leg in front. This is pretty important. And they should have kind of the same length. They should cycle only one time through. So let's go back into our blend space here. There's actually not much more we have to do. We have this thing blending here right now. And at the top left here, we can see axis setting. We have the horizontal axis, so the axis from left to right. There's only one we have because it's 1D. We are going to name this speed, just simply speed. And maximum value, minimum value. So we know if we go to our character blueprint, to the character movement, and walk. We have a max walk speed of 600, right? So we should fit those values up. So we put in a max of 600 here and we can see now the values. If you hold shift, we can see the values and the max would be 600. So maybe we want to spread this a little bit more. Let's put this over here. We can also, by the way, adjust the number of grid divisions. So let's just put in like 16 or something, just so we can spread this a bit more evenly here. Something like that, maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess that's fine. If needed, we can also change the interpolation type. Usually we should stay with average interpolation, but we can try linear, cubic. I mean, it doesn't seem to make a big difference. Let's just stay with average. All right, and with that, we got our blend space, which we can put in. It will make more sense once we get it implemented. So with that done, I think we should clean this a little bit up here. Let's create a folder for at least the particles here. So we just call this particle and we just grab the particle related things, the system and the smoke, and just move it in here for now. Move here. We can right click this and fix up a redirectory. Also maybe the main folder here, fix up redirectory, okay, just in case. The rest should probably stay in here for a second. This is just a blend space, yeah? We can just blend things together there, yeah? But this thing, where does it go? We don't have a place to go for it yet. You might think into the blueprint, but this is not quite correct. We have to right click first and go back to animations. And there is the thing called our animation blueprint. It will make sense in a second. Just create it. And we have to select down here our dark creature skeleton, because this animation blueprint goes onto the dark creature skeleton. So hit OK, and we call it dark underscore creature underscore Anim BP. So what is what here? We have our blueprint, right, where we set up the whole game logic, yeah, and this thing here with the event graph, the whole character logic. Then we have the animation blueprint we just created, and there is the logic for the animations. And then we have the blend space, which goes into the animation blueprint. So basically, the top priority is the blueprint. Inside this blueprint goes the animation blueprint. Then we have the blend space, which the blend space goes into that one. So this here goes into this here, goes into this here. To get now our animation blueprint into our blueprint, we just have to select the mesh here. And somewhere here it says, where is it? Animation. So we can just hit the I here and it says collapse all categories. Then we can see animation here. And animation mode, use animation blueprint. That's what we want to use. Anim class, we can just simply select our dark creature Anim BP. So the one we created down here. With that, the animation blueprint is inside the actual blueprint. We're going to open up the animation blueprint, and there we see some other scary stuff. All this here is the output. Before that, some stuff happens. Also, this animation blueprint has an event graph where we can work with blueprints, just like the normal blueprint has. We have an event graph here where we can do stuff with nodes, and we have one is in the animation blueprint where we can work with nodes. And over here we have another window, which we are going to cover later. So but before we go on, there are two options I didn't realize we had to check, or I forgot about it. First is in the dark creature BP self, yeah. We are looking for use controller rotation yaw. Here, use controller rotation yaw. We have to check this off. I'm going to show you first of all why. If we are moving around here, right, the character will always look with the camera. That's not entirely what we want. We don't really want this. So if we check this off here, use controller rotation yaw, hit compile, it will not do this anymore, but it's not going to move any either way. Yeah, it's not going to rotate at all. For that we have another option in the character movement here. We are looking for orient rotation to movement. So we just tap this in. Orient rotation to movement, meaning it's going to orientate the rotation based on the movement. Yeah. So basically always looking into the direction it moves. And this is going to be a bit better now. You can see we're actually looking into the direction in which we are walking. This is definitely more what we want. Should have been in the last video, just kind of forgot about it. But now we have three things, right? We have our blueprint. Inside the blueprint is the dark creature Anim BP, the Anim blueprint, and now we also need to get the walking here into the Anim BP. So I would say we are starting in the Anim graph over here. Let me make this big for you. So the Anim graph is where you actually put the animations in. So what we're going to do here is right click, and we want a new state machine. You can imagine it kind of like a group of animations, okay? So basically this is a group node for certain things. You now double click into it, we're going to see we are inside this. Here you see different windows. Here we have the main windows, right? And here we have sub windows. So we can also go a step back here and we are back right here. If you want to go inside here, we just double click on it. Here we see it. So here we can go down to the asset browser. If you don't have it open, go to window and just look through until you find the asset browser. Here we can grab either our animations themselves, or we can grab the whole blend space, this one here. We can grab this down here. So if we grab this in here, and we can see it's named. If we now connect this here and hit compile, it's actually in here. If we now double click on this here, we can go even a step further in. And we can see here, this node is connected to the output. And we can see we have a speed here. Why is that a speed? Well, because we called this here speed. If I put a 1 behind this, we will see now it has a 1 behind it. If I delete the 1, it doesn't have a 1 anymore behind this. And what is the speed? The speed is just where we are on this timeline. So if we put in a higher value, if we put in a 356, we're going to be exactly here. We just have to figure out what and how we put things in here. Where do we even figure out what to put in there? For that, the Anim BP has an event graph just like the normal blueprint has, right? In the normal blueprint, we figured out our movement of the capsule. In the Anim BP, we have also our event graph to figure out what the animations and when the animation should do certain things. So what do we want? We want to figure out how fast the character is. If the character moves slowly, now I don't have my controller connected, but with a controller I can move slowly, right? If we move slowly, we want that we have a lower number here, so we actually walk slower. If we walk fast, we want a higher number, so this dot goes further over here and we move fast. So back to our Anim BP here, we need to figure out how fast we are. For that, there's a rule of thumb you always have to do. I'm not that technically, I don't know why we are doing that exactly, but we have to do it and we have to ask is valid. Now this just checks if this other thing, if the character is actually available. Yeah. And here we actually got this node already. This is kind of convenient. Try to get pawn owner. We just grab this and plug this in here and we're just asking what is valid. So is this valid? And now we can actually work here. We can try to get a pawn owner and get velocity from this pawn owner. The pawn owner is basically the capsule here, if I get this right. And I'm going to show you a very handy thing here so we can observe the values that are outputted. If we check this is valid here, we can use a print string. Now this print string will not be in the final game ever, it's development only, but we can grab this here and plug this into this one here. You can see it's going to get converted, not a big problem. You can also unfold this here. And here we have the duration, yeah, if we want to show it long or less. Let's just make 1 second here. And we can hit compile. If we now go and hit play here, we can see on the left side that we're outputting something. And we're outputting some numbers. Yeah, x is 0, so we're basically only walking on the y-axis right now. We walk backwards only on the minus y, minus 559, plus 559. A little bit of x there. If we walk directly over here, we get x plus. If we walk over here, we get minus x. So this is very handy to always know what actually gets outputted. So I know we are having some vectors right now, but we can get the vector length. And the vector length is like the amount of all vectors together. Yeah. So if we plug this in here now into the string directly, we can delete the other one, it's just a converter. We will get a single number. You can see we are always getting basically 600. Why 600? Because in the character blueprint, under movement, under walk, we have a max walk speed of 600. And in the blend space, we set up 600. And so the character moves with a velocity of 600. Now there's some ground friction to it and whatever, but it's basically technically exactly 600. That's why we're having 600, because we have a max walk speed of 600. And there we go. We already get our walk speed as a value we can grab here. Now just this thing here needs to go into the speed here, because then with this 600 moving in here, this point will move from the left to the right. And if you observe the values, here we are at 200, here we are at 370 or something, and the max walk speed over here is 600. So basically, as faster we walk, as higher the number will get, as higher this number will get. And if we plug this in here, it will move along here and we will walk faster. Sounds complicated. It's not that complicated if you think about it. It makes a lot of sense, but you just need to get used to it. So how do we get this number from here over here? Now we did this already at the BP here, blueprint. We created variables. So we just need to create a variable. Let's go on the variables here, hit plus, and we call this walk speed, yeah. Now we select it, we can see it's a boolean, so just on or off switch, but we need an actual value that changes or is able to change. And we're changing it from a boolean to a float. We don't need to make the instance editable and not expose and spawn. This has nothing to do with it, because we just internally need this value to pass it to the other one here. We just store it in between here. So now we can grab this and we want to set it this time. We want to change the stored value. So we can do this right away. Go over here, grab this out and get it. We are going to set it here. Yeah, set it with that. Let's put this in here. With that, this stored variable will be our walk speed. And if we go over here, we can get it and put it in, and we hit compile. Now this should be all we need. Let's just see if that works. Does not. Interesting. Forgot something. Ah yeah, quite logical. Over here in this window here, if we go out here, you can see up here we can go a step back, a step back. It's not even connected. So we just need to connect it. Now hit compile and we can already see the pose changed. And if we now stand here, we are in our pose. And if we start walking, we can start walking. So this is pretty much all it is. Try to wrap your head around it. It's not that complicated. Here you're solving the logic for when the animations should play. You have a few windows, get used to the windows. You can go in here to adjust the animation itself a little bit more. If you go a step out here, you can array multiple animations next to each other on certain events. We're going to probably do this later, but this here is already the basic setup for our walk. Now I'm going to give a few side notes here. In the blend space here, up there we have a scale animation, meaning as faster the value actually gets, the animation will speed up. We can take a look here. If we play now, it's better fitting to the ground than it did before. We can, for example, if we go into the Anim BP inside here, and we really quickly just multiply this here, float times float, just to get a higher value here. Let's say, I don't know, 100. Let's go insane. We are going to get a higher value. See this? And how extremely, okay, that's maybe a bit overkill. Let's just say 20 maybe. You can see how extremely fast this animation plays. But the animation itself, it shouldn't play quicker because it's just moving from this axis to the right, It should just be further to the right, somewhere over here, The animation itself, it shouldn't be quicker. And this is what this scale animation does. It actually, as higher the value gets, as faster the animation plays. And with a proper value, sometimes this is this is something you want, and I think in our current case, this is something we want. So I'm just going to back here and I'm deleting this multiply. It was just to show you that the animation itself gets quicker with this checkbox checked. Getting slower as we look up. So you can see for some reason, when we are walking, we're getting slower if we look up. Obviously we don't want this. This is a mistake I made earlier. I thought I did this for nothing, but apparently we need to do this. If we take a quick look here, in my schoolgirl, under the base movement, I broke the vector, right? I want to repeat this very quick here. We got our player controller, we got the rotation, get actor rotation, and we took the forward vector and the right vector to tell where it should go. Now the problem is, if we put the camera from the top down, it tries to go basically through the ground, and it doesn't work. Same goes if we are walking up. This is not how it should go. Other blueprint as well. Basically just this here, break rotator, and we get access to the individual axis. Which one did I use? I used yaw, makes sense. And then we're just going to drag the yaw out and make a rotator. And with that, actually the yaw should go into the yaw. And alt left click the X here. With that, we're basically emptying out the X and Y, and we can just plug this in here. If we now hit compile, we should always walk with the correct speed. And there we go. Now it's not trying to go through the ground or into the sky anymore. The only thing that's controlling the move direction is the camera with the ZDR right now. And yeah, that's basically it for the whole movement. Now there's obviously more we could cover, how we put in multiple animations, but we're going to do this later.